I never wanted to accept that naturally and statistically women are the weaker sex, right? But then having those tools with Krav Maga, it just gives you a real empowerment and not false confidence, because there is still fear, but you just learn to use that fear to your advantage. You just feel like you're ready for anything. We don't believe in ladies only self-defense, but we do understand that some can't help it. How do we help all these women that are just a bit too scared to walk into a class with other men and that just want to be amongst women? Why don't we help them build some confidence and do a ladies class, but with the understanding that it will become a mixed class? We promise you, you'll have the confidence after that to walk into any class. You won't care who looks at you or what they say to you. It's not just defending if somebody's trying to punch you or put you in a situation where they're on top of you, or domestic violence. It deals with all of these things, but it deals with so much more. Just anything that scares you.
Welcome to the Superhuman Blueprint Podcast.
Welcome to the Superhuman Blueprint Podcast. I am your host, Drew Griesel from Primal Wellness Coaching. Quick reminder, subscribe, like, comment, share, help us get the word out there and help us work that algorithm so that more people find our podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about all things women's self-defense because we are joined by Laura Palmariello. Laura is a Krav Maga instructor, and she is a true Krav enthusiast. She's been doing Krav since 2016. She is an instructor at the Krav Maga Combat Academy in the United Kingdom, about an hour outside of London. And she is an instructor for adults, and she is the head instructor for their kids program there. And she's been a enthusiast for quite a while. And aside from training and teaching at Krav Maga Combat Academy, Laura has attended training courses throughout different parts of the world. She's trained in Israel. She is trained in other parts of Europe. And she's got a vast knowledge. And I wanted to talk to Laura specifically about self-defense for women. Laura, welcome to the Superhuman Blueprint Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So how is it over there in gloomy old England?
Same as usual. It's rainy and dark and grey. But I have just booked my holiday for the summer, so I'm quite excited about that.
Oh, where's that?
We're going to Spain. My partner is very difficult. He doesn't like it too hot. He doesn't like it too cold. He doesn't want to fly too fast. So this is why he's British, of course, and that's just where I like to go.
Yeah, well, perfect. Spain sounds lovely. I've never been there myself, but everyone I know that's been there has very lovely things to say about Spain.
It is. The sun is guaranteed, so that's good.
I have been to the UK a couple times, and I had a really nice, so at one point I spent 3 or 4 weeks there, and I had a really nice mixed bag of weather. You know, we had the gloom and the rain, but we had some gorgeous sunny days out there.
Yeah, it's not as bad as people say. You know, we do have some sun.
Yeah. Well, kind of like where I am in Southern California, it's not always perfect here. Mostly it is, but not always. All right, Laura, so you are a Krav Maga practitioner and a Krav Maga instructor. Yeah. And I want to talk a lot about that and talk a lot about, in particular, about women's self-defense. But can you just give us a little bit of a background? Like what got you into martial arts or self-defense?
So to be honest, I'd never actually done anything like that as a child. Most people I know have done either some martial arts like karate or whatever. I grew up in Germany and it just wasn't a big thing.
Okay.
So I've always done different sports. You know, my sport was volleyball. But I had a very busy life when I came to the UK. I had no hobbies. It was work, party every weekend.
So you moved there as an adult?
I ran away from home when I was 15.
Okay.
So
that's something.
Not quite adult, but I had to grow up very quickly.
Sure.
Krav Maga is something I took up in my late 20s. Actually, it was supposed to be a hobby for me and my ex that we took up together. So actually, from my point of view, I don't even think I started it for self-defense. It was more a hobby, something to do that we would do
Okay.
together.
Something to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we just had a daughter, and, you need to sort of, do something together.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we started doing Krav Maga together. I say ex because clearly it ended up being just my hobby, and it didn't quite work out with him. But it's strange because I wasn't hooked immediately. I went to my first class, and we played kickballs, right? So that was the warm up. You're in a square marked out by cones, and you just kick each other in the groin. And I was like, what is this?
Oh, kickballs.
You score, the balls. Yeah. So you score points by kicking each other in the balls.
What?
Yes. I mean, you mark it.
I've never heard of that drill. It sounds awful.
You mark it. It's not
It
like...
sounds absolutely terrible. Okay. All right.
So you score points that way. I was like, what is this place? Where have I ended up? And then I put like the groin guard on, and I'm like, what is this? Definitely ended up in the wrong place. So we went a few more times.
I'm impressed you went back after kickballs.
Well, you get, when you do Krav Maga, you get your lessons where, like, if a newbie shows up or somebody on a trial, it's very likely they're not going to come back. But
yeah, right.
For some lessons, you just need to be hooked in Krav to enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Kickballs.
So
I would have a very difficult time playing that game with anyone that is not like a black belt and extremely coordinated and controlled.
It's a fun game. You should try it. I mean, wear a groin guard though.
Okay. Yeah. The only place I've trained where I've ever seen women wearing the groin guards is where I first took Krav, which was in Sydney.
Really?
It's fairly common there. I've never seen them here in the States.
Do you know, I find it really interesting how some things are so different depending on where you go. Because like in Germany, when I go to Germany to seminars, the girls all wear them, but to some they don't wear them. And in fact, when I went to Israel for the first time, the guys weren't wearing them, but one of them learned very quickly.
Never do Krav Maga without a groin guard, fellas. Come on.
I know. It was the sparring scenario, where you're ready for it, and then I'm like, cool, groin kick, why not?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I always do that. We sort of end up somewhere completely different.
No, that was me. I just got really hung up on this kickballs game of yours. So please continue. You had your first day. You actually went back.
Well, anyway, so I started going for a while, and I don't know, life got in the way and everything. So I ended up after sort of 6 months on a Krav Low. I think everybody who starts Krav Maga gets their Krav Low. And I had it after 6 months because I was like, oh, I'm not getting it. And then you don't go to one class. And then before you know it, it's been 6 weeks. But I don't know, a few months later, I had a really bad day. And I remembered the one thing about Krav at the time was when I go to Krav, I don't have to think about anything else. And I always feel better afterwards. So, so I went back. And then from that moment, I was absolutely hooked. 1 class a week turned into 4 classes a week, turned into meeting up with friends and doing it, going to seminars. And that was it. I was absolutely hooked. I immediately started assisting with kids as well. And that's it. Once you have the Krav bug, that's it. It's there.
How was it that you came to start assisting with the kids? Like, did they approach you for that, or were you just kind of there and you just jumped in?
I was just there. I couldn't get enough of Krav. I was like,
okay,
what else can I do? What do you need? I gave up my job to help manage the club and run the club and
wow,
and promote it and do all the social media. I just everything.
Okay, you were all in. Yeah. Okay.
And then there was our instructor at the time for the kids. He was very new to it as well. And teaching teaching adults is daunting, but teaching kids is just a whole other level.
It's very hard.
They don't care. Like if they don't like
no mercy from children.
So that was it. So I did Krav 4 times a week. I helped teach 2 classes. Then it was 3 classes. Now we've got with adults and kids, I think we've got 9 classes a week. And I wanted to become an instructor. I so wanted to
Mm-hmm.
become an instructor. So everything I did, it was about craft, so much so that my friends and family got really sort of tired of hearing about it. And you
Yeah.
get my nephews, they're like, oh, what are you going to do if I do this? And I'm like,
Yeah.
you know the meme when it's like, what my parents think I do at craft, what my friends
Right.
think I do at craft.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then you say, nephew, let's play some kickballs for a warm up.
Yes.
And I'll show you what I would do. So aside from not having to think while you're training, like what got you to that point of being so immersed, of wanting to just spend all your time there and live and breathe Krav Maga?
It was the people. It's
Mm-hmm.
I've done different things, like I've tried different things out, and I've done gym classes and I've gone to clubs, but to walk into a place and it's just like a family like that, and your friends and everything, that was a really, really nice feeling. But the empowerment,
Yeah.
I have to say, as a girl, I was always very tomboyish. So I guess I never sort of wanted to accept that naturally and statistically women are the weaker sex, right?
Yeah.
But then having those tools with Krav Maga, additionally, it just gives you a real empowerment. And not, I wouldn't say it's false confidence, because there is still fear, but you just
Mm-hmm.
learn to use that fear to your advantage. So you start using your
Yeah.
situational awareness and all of these things, and you just feel like you're ready for anything. It doesn't mean that I think I'm Superwoman or anything, or our students would think
Right.
that, but it's just a confidence that we probably be able, first of all, to avoid most situations, which
Yeah.
interestingly, many people misunderstand Krav Maga, don't quite understand about everything that we do. And really what we do is get away from the situation. Sure, learn how to deal with worst case scenario, but it's about your situational awareness. So I think most of all, that empowerment as a woman, that I can walk down that road, not putting
Yeah.
myself in danger unnecessarily, but also not doing a 5-kilometer detour just because I'm too scared, or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you've taken Ron Engelman's course and I've taken his course, and something that I heard him say when I was out there in Israel that stuck with me was, and I was in the advanced instructor course as well. And he said to us, his students, Krav Maga is not for you, because people aren't going to mess with you because Krav Maga. You present yourself in a way that people are not going to choose you as a victim. Krav Maga is for the people that walk in the door that are not there yet.
Yeah.
And I'm totally paraphrasing, but that's that's the idea of what he
This
said.
is a really interesting point, because confident people rarely get picked on, do they? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely right. I agree with that.
Yeah. And you can easily tie that back to children's martial arts, right? I mean, one of the main things you're teaching them is self-confidence. And, I've heard that my whole life. Oh, take karate, you learn self-confidence. And I didn't know what that meant as a child, but as an adult, I get it, right? If you're the kid that's not like walking around with your shoulders hunched and your eyes to the ground, if you're up and you're standing tall and you look confident, then that bully's just, they're not even going to see you when they're looking for someone to pick on.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
But one of the first things you mentioned when I asked you what hooked you in so deeply was just the gym itself, right? The club. And that's a big one. We call it culture here, right? The culture of the studio, and treating the staff like a family, and kind of the core group of members that are always there, that want to be a part of the, anyone that wants to be a part of the family can be a part of the family. And so many people do. And that's a huge part of it. Right. And I've been to a lot of different studios. I've been a member of different studios. I've dropped in at different studios, and some places you can see it right away, and some places not. But that's definitely a huge influencing factor, I think, in, I would say, member retention, as well as just, the fulfillment that people can get out of it. Technique is good. You should have a good program with good technique and good instructors, but that culture part of it is huge.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. I think it's the culture, but also one of the other things that struck me was that guys treat you like they treat other guys, right? And to me, I wouldn't say I'm a feminist. As I said, I was a bit of a tomboy, and I just don't like when I get treated differently just because I'm a girl.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I guess it was just, I had found a perfect club, and you just get treated the same way. So it's like, you're going to kick me in the balls, I kick you in the balls. Even if I have none, I mean, it does still hurt. Trust me, I have tried it because I'm crazy.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing. Everybody trains together, and everybody has so much respect for each other. And also, I do think that everybody that does Krav is a little crazy somewhere. We've got all something in common. I can't quite pin it down. So it's that belonging. Not that I love my family and I love my friends, but none of them have that. I've tried to get them all into Krav. But there is some sort of belonging. You just feel like you need to be there. It's weird.
Yeah.
Weird to explain.
Yep. I will say, as a male that's been doing Krav and other martial arts for a long time, I definitely have a kind of mixed experience in my my perspective or interactions with the different women I've trained with. There are a lot that they just want to be another person right there, right? Like I've literally been scolded by female training partners for not, going harder or for kind of just taking it easy on them. But then I've also had plenty and seen plenty as an instructor that aren't anywhere near ready for that. So I think you have to get to a point where that's what you want.
Absolutely. There has to be a balance. There really does. I mean, at the end of the day, I always explain to my students and the male students, and sometimes when I think they're going too soft with the more experienced females, I tell them off, because I'm like, I'm not teaching anyone to defend a hug. We're talking about some serious situations here, bearing in mind I know my students, I know what issues they have and what might trigger them and things. But at the end of the day, they came to learn how to deal with these situations. So they're going to be put in these situations, and you're not helping them by being nice. It's really good that you can be a good and strong attacker in a controlled environment where they trust the person who's doing it. So that's a real big one for me, because, it's important. It's important because women, statistically, they're going to get attacked by a guy, and by a much bigger and stronger guy, right? This is not me saying women are weak or whatever. I have to be very careful because, but statistically, this is the case. So
right. And I found, as an instructor teaching a class, women tend to want to partner with women. Just for, if they're picking a partner for the class, generally they'll pick someone they know, someone of a maybe similar skill set, similar size. And that's fine. But when we get to the point of pressure testing, of the final drill, or if we're doing a little bit of light sparring, or, I want an attacker that's really going to hold on tight, then, as an instructor, I'll have to be intentional about shaking things up a little bit. Yeah. And it's hard because, and I'm maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm just going to go there. Most guys don't want to partner with women.
This is true. But look, I understand it, because it isn't about a man and woman thing. It's the same is true for a man. A big, strong man is unlikely to get attacked by a woman that's just not as strong. So
right.
It's the same is true for them. So they also need a mix. Yep. But to them, it's not helpful to train with women that much. So I guess a bit of compromise is necessary for everyone in order to
exactly.
achieve.
And for me, that's why I kind of like, okay, choose your partner, and you'll use this partner for your drilling, but then I'm going to intentionally mix things up so that when we get to a point of at least, pressure testing, that you get a mixed bag of training partners or attackers or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the same thing honestly applies for people that are new, right? People that show up that are quite experienced don't necessarily want to partner with the new person unless they're feeling, maybe a little lazy and just want to do more instructing than training that day, which I've been there. Yeah. But usually they want someone that can match their skill and intensity.
Absolutely. I think people don't realize how much work goes into teaching a class, all the things you need to, I think emotionally it can be, I absolutely love it. It's my passion, teaching, practicing, But I think people think we just show up and we just teach. But all the things we have to bear in mind, it's every single person. We think about, what does she need? What does he need? Oh no, he's been partnered up with this person for like the past 6 weeks. There is so much that goes into it. And I don't think people are aware that we see everything and are so much more aware and want to make sure that everybody gets the best out of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of that goes into being a good instructor, and there's a lot of pressure too. The other day, just in a warm-up drill of my class, I had a one of our members who I'd never met before. She's fairly new, injure her knee, and so she's like laying on the ground in agony, and we're only maybe 7 minutes into the class. Like, okay, well, I'm the instructor, so it's on me to take charge and manage this, manage this woman and her injury while keeping the class going.
Yeah.
So, it's just those moments of pivoting.
Yeah.
So I really want to talk a lot today about just kind of women in Krav Maga, and we're already doing that. So cool. But something that I was talking to you about when we met over the phone a couple of weeks ago was I've been instructing for 7 years now. And for 7 years, I've been inviting essentially every woman in my life, every female in my life, to come take a trial class or come do one of our quarterly women only seminars. And I have very little success getting women, honestly, probably men as well, but I have a little bit more success with men, but almost no success with women, getting them to come in and take a class. And you said it's actually the same for you. So I wanted to talk about that.
So it was the same for us. We were in exactly the same boat. So I'm going to tell you my secret, and maybe it works for you, and maybe other people have tried it. But having spoken, and this is, so 3 years ago, I started this. Well, I'll start from the beginning. So we were in the same boat. Most were guys in the club, and the girls that were there were tomboyish girls that, probably at school they would have played more with boys rather than with the girls type of thing. And of course, we want to help women as well, because, there is so much, there's so much out there, so many threats out there. So they need it too. And we were discussing, Matt and I were discussing lady self-defense classes, and we were discussing it for like months and years. So Matt is my boyfriend, who's also the chief instructor of the club. So we live together. Actually, everything we talk about is Krav.
Oh man, yeah, you live and breathe Krav Maga at the club and at home.
Yeah. And fundamentally, and this is, I'm not sure even if I should. Look, I think everybody can have their own belief and their own thoughts in relation to lady self-defense classes, right? There's different reasons why women don't do it, right? So we've got, for example, we live close to a Muslim community. They wouldn't be allowed to train with other guys in the class. They could only do lady self-defense. Then you just get women that have had bad experiences, sort of domestic violence, or they're scared of it or whatever. You've had women that had bad experiences in gym. Going to the gym, to a mixed gym as a woman, is one of the most daunting experiences I've ever had.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
So
why is that?
It's not anymore, because now, I do Krav. Now I've got the confidence. No, but back then I would walk in and I'd either, very often I'd just walk out because I'd be too scared. Because I want to go and do the weights and I want to go and do that stuff, but I don't know how to. Are they going to laugh at me? Or the man there, going like this, look at me, I just always felt out of place. And many women I know have the same experiences. And again, it could be dependent on the country you're in. But most women I've spoken to, they fall into any one of those categories. So their previous experiences of walking to a club or a class, especially where they're male dominated, the first impression is just, oh no, I'm scared, I can't do it, I don't want to do it. Or they maybe end up doing the class and they feel really awkward. So I guess that has to be taken into consideration. So we don't believe in ladies only self-defense, but we do understand that some can't help it. But I said, well, how do we help all these women that are just a bit too scared to walk into class with other men? And and that just want to be amongst women. I said, why don't we help them build some confidence and do a ladies class, but with the understanding that it will become a mixed class. So we do a course for ladies in a particular area, where we know we can open another class as well and say, this is the course. It will be ladies only. We promise you, you'll have the confidence after that to walk into any class. You won't care who looks at you or what they say to you. And that's what we did. And it was amazing. And I did it 3 years ago in a little village, a town around the corner from me. I had, so 90% of these ladies, or 80% now, some left in the meantime, they've all stayed in the club, and they're still in the club, and they will train with any guy in the club and the biggest guy. And in fact, they thrive on it, being able to use what they've learned against one of the biggest and heaviest guys that we have. And to see that, I mean, just talking about it gives me goosebumps. And this is what we did. And if we had more instructors, I think we would continue to do that. We would tour the country, doing lady self-defense classes, but explaining to women why it is so important to eventually face your fears and train with other guys. Yeah. So it's not, when I said, I'm going to tell you my secret, it was nothing special. It was just, I was like, no, we're not going to have that. We're going to get some women in. We're going to show them that they can do it. I'm quite passionate about women and self-defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And so at the studio where I teach, Gateway Cities Krav Maga, we have a quarterly women's only seminar. So basically it's a 2-hour class every 3 months. And we have a good track record of getting a good turnout in that class. And it's really treated as a seminar, right? It's 45 minutes or so of lecture, and then, a little over an hour of training with a little, very manageable stress drill at the end. And, we get good turnout from all over the place. We get, these ladies that come in, they're coming from any number of places. I don't even know how they hear about it, honestly. But what we don't have is a lot of retention from that. So, and only in the last couple of years have we gotten better at using the last couple minutes to invite them to join the studio and become a member and, have a free trial or whatever. But even since then, we have very few of those seminar participants that actually stay on to continue to take classes. And, maybe that's just not what they were looking for, right? A 2-hour seminar was all they really wanted. But I feel that there's a lot of opportunity that's being missed because we got the foot in the door, right? They saw it. But there's only so much you get from a 2-hour seminar, right? Especially when, 45 minutes of it was lecture, and you're only getting a few reps in and then it's over.
Yeah. I think people need to do a series of events to get hooked. I think the first one can feel quite awkward. You can feel like you've done something really silly and stupid. You feel like maybe you've said something wrong. I have high functioning anxiety. So, whatever I think or feel may not be true for all women, but from speaking to other women, they do confirm these things. But I think if you maybe, with this lady self-defense, we said it's a 6 weeks course, so you pay for the entire weeks. And I think when you pay for something, you're more likely to go back because you're like, I've got to go.
Yeah, there's a bit of a commitment there.
Also, they were all new. All of them in the room the first time, they were all new. Nobody knew each other. And they just made friends very quickly. So
well, 6 weeks together.
Yes.
For those people, for those that actually, they keep coming in, then that's awesome.
And the difference, I wish you could have met those ladies then, and I wish you could see them now. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. These are all ladies that wouldn't normally go to a mixed class because of all those worries or other issues or whatever that we've talked about. And something really something really interesting happened on Tuesday. So, we do pressure drills. One of the drills is an eyes closed drill. And what we like to do is sort of give people a bit of a push to wake them up. But it's got to be strong enough to wake them up and to give them some sort of adrenaline, right? So it can't just be a little nudge. Yeah. It's just got to be like, a push. With some of, with some of the guys, I used to train with a guy who was ex-army, and we used to slap each other in the face. But that's only between friends.
Okay.
Things get a bit crazy sometimes, but no, I'm not suggesting anybody does that. Anyway, so
Yeah.
I always try and explain, when we do this and we give them this wake-up call, it has to give them some adrenaline. It has to give them a little shock, right? But one person over there that's been training for 6 years compared to a person that's been here for 2 weeks, different levels of wake-up call, right? And I
Yeah,
looked around the
absolutely.
room. So I said a name. I was like, obviously he will need a much stronger push than. And I couldn't finish my sentence because I was surrounded by all of these ladies that had been with me for these 3 years. And I was like, no, you all need the same kind of push. And it was just sort of like, that felt amazing to be able to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. That is pretty amazing. And I will say for the ladies that do come into our studio, there's a strong sense of commitment, and I don't teach as much as I would like to these days, but when I do, it's almost split down the middle, male to female ratio, which is
That's
awesome.
good.
I love that. However, I will say so I also, again, not so much these days, but historically I've always taught our stand-up fight class. So, I have a background in Muay Thai and boxing. So I teach a weekly stand-up fighting class. It's kind of intro to fight. We do some drilling with focus mitts, Thai pads, whatever, and then we'll do a bit of light sparring. That one I have a lot less success getting women to come in and to continue to come to that class. And I asked them about it because I want to know, right? And attending that class is a requirement for progressing. Not attending all the time, but attending some of those classes. And there's just this very, very strong dislike for the sparring part of it. Even though, even when they're not getting hit hard, just getting hit at all is very, very uncomfortable, very scary for a lot of these women. And I also had one recently tell me that she kind of like what you were saying at the gym, she just feels dumb. She feels like she doesn't know what she's doing. That she, people are looking at her, and that she's just, she feels a little lost. And that's on me as an instructor to be able to figure that out. Right. And so I figured that out, right, because I pulled her aside and, I made her go a couple rounds with me, but it's light and we're talking while we're doing it. I'm like, all right, what's going on? So I was able to get that from her, but I have to imagine that, for every one person that I'm able to really figure out what's going on, that there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 that I don't know what's going on. They're just not there anymore.
Yeah, I think that is common among women. Again, I'm very different. I'm like, put me in the ring, let's have a punch up. I don't know what's wrong with me, honestly, but I enjoy it, right? I don't worry about getting hurt and stuff, but that's probably why I constantly nurse injuries. I love it, and I think there are just different types of people, men and women, and I think there are many men that maybe wouldn't want to be put in a situation, that I haven't found a solution to that, but I have to say we don't do. I think that comes with confidence as well. So we don't start sparring straight away. We don't do it much, or when we do it more in a Krav way. But that's a separate sort of story, because in Krav, you got to do it in the right way. But anyway, so we do it after sort of a certain while after they're trained, and that's because maybe we feel that they need to build that confidence, that they're getting it right with the techniques and they're doing really well. Because I do think sparring can knock your confidence a bit, right? So you're doing your craft and you're doing your technique, and then you go into then and you start sparring, and you forget all your craft, of course, and you just sort of like trying to hit each other in the face, you're not avoiding and all of that. So I think you need to be confident. Then you're going to start sparring. Your confidence is going to drop a little, but it's not too bad because you already have that previous confidence. And many women that I've speak to, that they've been to other classes, they're like, oh, well, it was my first class, and they put me straight in. They made a spar straight away, and it was just really scary. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know my left from right. So I guess that's just sort of my own experience, but I think it's just very common with the sparring in women statistically. Again, I'm not saying that. That they are just a little bit worried because they see
no club
should too strong. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's true. And that's something that I've also learned as an instructor is I have to be very aware of who is sparring with who, and I have to understand how each person spars. Some
Yeah,
people are very strong but have very good control, and that's great. And some people have less control, and that's not great.
yeah,
Particularly depending on who they're with. I will say no club should put people into sparring when they're new. Like everyone should have a certain amount of experience behind them before
yeah,
they ever
absolutely.
get into that kind of pressure training. But yeah, it's interesting to me, particularly coming from a stand-up fighting background, right? Muay Thai and boxing, where that's why people are there. So I didn't really think about it until I was teaching class and would just see the female participants in particular just kind of teeter on whether they're going to come to that class or not.
Yeah, that's a
So
shame. I'd be there
something,
every time, I tell you that much.
yeah. And I've failed as an instructor. As a newer instructor, there are definitely times that I have failed to manage how that experience was for various members, not just women, but various members as I was learning, right?
Yeah,
Some people kind of got their butts kicked and were very demotivated, and
yeah,
that was on me.
that's normal at the beginning.
Yeah, it is. It is. But, at the same time, it makes me sad that, someone that wanted to show up had a bad experience and doesn't want to show up
No, I
anymore.
can understand that.
Yeah.
That's always that's one of the scariest things is a student getting injured because you're instructing the class and you always feel like maybe I shouldn't have done that. It's for me, I always like to push people a little more, but it's just such a fine balancing act because
Yeah.
if I said, oh no, be a bit stronger, do this, and then they end up getting injured, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. One thing I do with the big boys that come in to spar, particularly those, for a while, I used to run an advanced fight class, and
Mm,
not every class, but once in a while, we usually keep the power pretty mid range, mid to low. But once in a while, but people get sloppy. Like when they're not afraid of getting hit because they know it's not going to hurt that bad, they get sloppy on their defense.
yeah,
And so once in a while, I would have
that's
the
the
big boys
thing.
bring up their power, just to give them a little bit of a reminder that that there may be someone out there that's going to hit you a lot harder than you're used to getting hit when
Yeah,
we do our
that's a
friendly
that's a
sparring.
that's a very interesting point. Yeah, because you're sparring and you've got the squishy gloves on, and then and that's what I mean. But people forget their craft because it's just a
Yeah,
squishy glove, isn't it? So
yeah,
yeah, that's important
yeah.
to
Have you ever trained with shock knives?
what knives?
Shock knives?
Did I give you like electric shocks?
Yeah.
We looked into them, but I think they're illegal in the UK.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's a nice little dose of reality when you're knife training, right? Because you can get
Yeah.
lazy with that too. People are trying to disarm and they're grabbing the blade and all kinds of dumb
Yeah.
stuff.
No,
But
I've heard about them and I looked into it, but yeah, I think they're illegal in this country. I mean, it's just it's not like it kills you or anything, is it? It gives you a bit of
no,
a shock,
it
right?
just a bit of a shock. Yeah, I mean it's very uncomfortable, but it doesn't like leave a mark on your skin or anything.
Yeah. No, we can't have them in the UK.
Okay, well those are quite a nifty training tool. And actually, do you know who Paulo Rubio is?
Yes, he's coming to the UK, and in fact, one of our students is going to see him soon. The
Okay, cool.
the knife
So
guy,
he,
and Ron did a
the knife
podcast with
guy.
him recently as well, didn't you?
Yeah, and actually I did as well. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, so Paulo came and did a seminar at our studio a few weeks ago, and so
Nice.
I solicited him to be on this show. So
Oh, cool.
probably
I'll
a
have to
few
listen to that.
episodes before this one comes out will be my chat with Paulo. But when he was in our studio, one of the training weapons he had was a training knife that it makes like a sound, like a whistle, or like this like very irritating whistle whenever it makes contact around the edge of the blade.
Yeah.
So that was also a good one. Maybe something that would be legal in the UK
Definitely.
since it's
I mean,
just a sound.
we do a thing where, okay, this is going to sound weird. The start of the sentence is going to sound weird. We rub oil onto each other's arms, and we put lipstick on the blades. So
Oh, okay.
things, so things can get really
We
messy, and it's just really
yeah.
difficult to see,
What
realistically, it's quite,
We,
slippery and lipstick, and you get on your white t-shirt and stuff. So we
okay.
wear white t-shirts as well. So
Yeah.
we've done that
I was
drill.
going to say, we do the lipstick sometimes, but we never mix in the oil. That just to
Try it.
simulate like just the kind of the sweat from the adrenaline, or what's the point of the oil?
Yeah. Well, sweat from the adrenaline or blood. So let's say you got cut
Blood.
already,
Oh,
you keep
got it.
going.
Okay. Got it. Interesting. All right. Well, all of my crappy canola oil that I want to dump down the drain, I'll just bring to the studio to use for training.
You should try.
Yeah. And the reason that I keep coming back to women is I am, as you mentioned, this is something that women really should have some kind of fundamental training here, right? I'm a very firm believer that every person should have fundamental knowledge of how to protect themselves and protect their loved ones. But every woman in particular should have a stronger foundation, because statistically women are more chosen to be victims, and they're usually chosen to be victims by people that are bigger and stronger than them.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I kind of refuse to give up on trying to get women to have exposure to this type of training. Again, my success rate is low, but I have some success, which, every woman I get to come in and even take a single class, I find to be a great success. But even for parents, for example, my niece is 10 or about to be 10, and she's grown up a little bit, and she's pretty, and she's about to quit dance, and I'm like, all right, time for a new extracurricular activity. Let's get her into some kind of martial art. But she is not at all interested, and I don't think she's going to be getting into that kind of training. And I'm like, well, I just like it kind of I want her to have those skills, whether, if it's fun or not. It's just kind of some fundamental skills that I want her to have, because I care about her, and I want her to have all the tools that she needs to live the life that she wants to live.
I absolutely agree. I think it's hard to make children understand the importance. So, we get a lot of, I do understand to a certain extent, I don't want to force my kid to do something that they don't want to do. I understand that. I've got a 10-year-old. But I make her do it. And that's because I say to her, if you want to have more freedom as a teenager, you're not getting it if I don't know that you know how to be safe.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. It's not about a hobby. I don't care what other hobbies you do and like and don't like, but it isn't just a hobby. It's a life skill that you need to learn if you want any sort of freedom. Because it's a really horrible world we live in. And I'm very honest with her about it as well. We protect our children from everything. But I think they do need to know what's out there so that they understand the importance of defending it. It's no point wrapping them in cotton wool and then they'll get a real shock when they go out there. So.
And you hope that no one ever gets that shock, but it's all about preparedness. What happens if you do? Like, would you rather know something or know nothing?
Exactly. Absolutely. And I completely agree with you. And when people are like, oh, how often have you used your Krav? Or, people say, oh, you won't use your Krav. It's like, I haven't had to, because I'm situationally aware, because I don't put myself in situations. Who knows how many situations we've all avoided by doing that. Mm-hmm. It's not about having to use it. It's a tool when you can't do anything else. But more importantly, it's how great is it that I haven't had to use it, right?
Right. Yep. And I will admit, I tried to get my 5-year-old son into Taekwondo, and he only made it 2 weeks. So it's an ongoing effort there as well. But, it's
sad, isn't it, when we have such a passion and we think our children should have that passion. Why don't they?
Yeah. Well, he said he says he wants to do karate. That's just the word that he knows. And he said he wanted to find a different school. He didn't like the school, which I could only kind of see why. I thought it was a great school with great instructors, but they would kind of lose his interest about, I don't know, 2/3 of the way into every class when they start doing a certain type of thing. And so he would just be bored by the end of every class. I feel like if I had a daughter that she wouldn't have a choice. And maybe that's not fair, but that's
No, I
just
agree with that. I
my
mean,
perspective.
look, there's a lot of things our children won't find fair, but they'll thank us when they're older.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was pretty cool was I was already 30 or something when I met my wife, and she had actually trained in Krav before I ever even heard of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool to meet her, because I was already doing Krav at the point that I met her.
Yeah.
But then, we're talking about what I do, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I did Krav, X number of years ago." So she did it for, I think, a summer between high school and college, because she and her best friend wanted to have some of those foundational skills as
Yeah.
they were going off to college, which is awesome.
Yeah. That's
I have
great.
so much respect for that.
Yeah.
And then once I started teaching, she actually started to come in and train again, which was
Oh,
cool,
that's
because it had been,
lovely.
a decade or more since she had trained. And yeah, she trained very regularly all the way up until she was, I don't know, 8 months pregnant with our first child.
Oh, wow.
And it's gotten more complicated since we had kids, but yeah, it
Yeah.
was super fun having her come in.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, it must be nice to have that support there as well. Because as much as you get used to teaching, it's always like, you're teaching a whole group, and having, family member there, your wife, a partner, is always nice.
Yep. Now, if I could get my sister to come in, sister, if you're watching this episode,
You should give
come
it a
take a
go. You
class.
love it.
It's fun. You get to punch and kick things. I
Exactly.
got my actually my niece and nephew did go for a very short period of time a long time ago. So maybe when my niece was like 3, she went in for a few classes, but the studio is just so far from where they live that it
Yeah.
didn't really work out to keep going. But she was really good at it when she did it. It was very cute. She wasn't even supposed to take the class. It was for my nephew, and she was just wanting to do everything he was
Joining
doing.
in.
So she wandered
Wow.
in and was very
I think
cute
with
doing it.
kids, it's just so important. It's got to be all learning, fun learning, isn't it? So you've got to, everything
Yeah.
you move has to somehow go into a game. And I think the difference with I don't know, I can only speak from what I've heard of people that have done other martial arts, but we're not, with the kids, we're not as strict as it sounds when you walk into a karate class or something, from what I hear,
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
Yeah.
and I think I'm okay with that, because whilst we teach them respect, discipline as well to a certain extent, but I think maybe the discipline not to the same extent as other martial arts, and that's because we teach them to deal with chaotic situations. So the class is a bit more chaotic, so that's how they learn to deal with such things, and then it's all fun and games and things whilst learning techniques. It obviously depends on the age and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Have
yeah,
higher standards for the older kids as far as the,
absolutely.
discipline and being able to stand there and listen to instructions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I rarely teach kids. Once in a while, I kind of get pulled in to be a substitute teacher, and I will admit I am very intimidated by teaching kids class, because you got all these kids of different ages and different types of attention spans and different skill levels, and you got to keep them all busy and make it fun and engaging
Yeah,
for all of them and try to keep up. Yeah,
it's
so we have
exhausting, isn't it?
it is very exhausting. But we have a teen actually who I will be at her high school graduation later today, who has kind of taken over our kids' classes
Oh,
in
lovely.
partnership with our head instructor, and she is amazing. And she started training with us when she'll be 18 soon. She started training with us when she was 13 or 14, and like
Lovely.
just the growth that I've seen in her is like, it's unbelievable. And I sometimes think, like, what would she be like if she'd never walked into this studio?
Yeah.
But her presence and her leadership and her ability to interact with the kids and the adults is just, it's amazing.
That sounds really lovely. We really
Yeah.
struggle with teens. I don't know if it's the same way you guys are, but they just want to be in their rooms on their phone. So we don't really, people want us to do a teens class, and we did have one, and I would do it for just those couple of kids that are absolute ninjas and love it, but it's not viable. We just can't get them out of their rooms, or
Yeah.
there's just aren't many teens that want to do anything. Never mind
Yeah.
Krav Maga.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is we also used to have a teens class and we no longer do. And one, the class was never that big. So yeah, it was never like we had like 10 or 15 kids in the
Yeah.
teens class. You know, it was usually like a handful. But the owner ended up just absorbing teens into adults. And the reason that he did that was because he wants the teens, instead of kind of moping around with each other or being distracted with each other or kind of feeding off each other, like goofing around, to be around the adults and to be, be kind of stuck in this class that is more disciplined, where people are there
Yeah.
to learn
No,
and
that's
to
really
grow.
good. We do it, so we take some on, and we don't really do. It's not so much based on age; it's based on, can you hold a shield for an adult? Can you
Yeah.
hold your own kind of thing? But
Yep.
yeah, there's a little gap between kids and adults, but it's not too bad.
Yeah. And I will say, as an instructor, when we first did that, uh, I didn't like it. I didn't like absorbing the teens into the adults class for the same reasons why the owner and chief instructor didn't want to have a teens class, was because they were distracted, they goofed around. It was hard for me as an instructor to manage them, particularly if they get partnered with an adult. Then the adult's not necessarily having a great experience because now they
Yeah,
have to kind of rein in their teen partner. But I got on board. I get the vision, and I've seen the growth that these teens can experience so much more quickly
yeah,
than they were when they were just with each other or with the kids program.
yeah. I guess the teens need more serious words than the children, don't they?
Yeah.
They need like a reality check and like, look, you're in a class with adults now. You know, pull your weight and don't mess around.
Yep.
A lot of giggling, isn't there?
There's so much
It's teen
giggling.
girls.
So much giggling. Yeah. But what advice would you give to a woman, like maybe one of your students, an adult female that is kind of on the edge, right? They've tried a class and they're like, I don't know if this is for me. Like, what would you tell someone like that?
Well, I would find out why they wanted to do it in the first place. Like, what are your worries? What
Okay.
are your concerns? And are you going to resolve them by walking away?
Okay.
And if it wasn't because of self-defense, if it was just for a hobby, I would still point out, you know, how much confidence craft gives you. Like, imagine anything that scares you, you will be able to deal with it. And that's what I would say. And I say to my women, and I say to many people, I'm not embarrassed about, my past or anything. I don't get embarrassed about anything. I don't care. So I used to be, before craft, I used to be a complete different person. I wouldn't be able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I was working in hospitality, and I used to run restaurants and hotels, but I
Okay.
wasn't very good at attending board meetings or being in a group and speaking in front of people in that way.
You didn't have that strong presence.
No, I was like, really like just major anxiety, complete breakdown. And I was invited to this women networking event. It was all women. And I walked in, and I started crying and hid in the toilet. And a colleague had to find me, and I just
Okay.
went home. So this is the sort of level I was at. And you probably wouldn't
Yeah.
imagine that now, sort of, I'm speaking to you. But this is the kind of thing that craft helps you with. It's not just defending if somebody's trying to punch you or put you in a situation where they're on top of you, or domestic violence. Yeah, it deals with all of these things, but it deals with so much more. Just anything that scares you. You do craft for long enough, for whatever bizarre reason, I can't explain it, that fear will go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that a good answer?
Yeah, that's a great answer. And as you're saying it, I'm thinking about some of the women that I've seen, stick around our studio for a while, right? For a few years or more, and just the growth that I've seen as well.
Yeah.
Just in that presence. And some of them, they don't necessarily change so much on the outside, but you can kind of see it, especially when they get into the pressure drills, where
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's like they can take a lot and they can dish it back out.
Yeah. I think craft becomes fun once you relax with it. So when people leave at the beginning,
Don't take it so seriously.
Yes, I think everyone is like really scared and really rigid and like, oh, am I doing it right and stuff? But if you just relax and just have fun and not care about what anybody would think. Not that anybody would, because you're in a safe place, but it just becomes really fun, I think. But it does take, I would tell people to stick with it for at least 6 months, build those friendships, learn that craft, because at the beginning you think, oh my God, there's like 1,000 techniques. I'll never learn that. I don't know how to do that. But once you get to like 2 years of training or even a year, you start realizing that it's all the same thing. Yeah, it's that, that, or that.
You recycle different movements for different purposes.
Yeah, yep. and you it just all comes to you. And they just need to stick with it. That's all I can say. I would just literally say anything you're scared of, if you stick with craft, you'll be able to deal with it, and it just helps you with anything where you need confidence or whatever it is.
Yeah, and something I'm a big proponent of in all kinds of different fashions is intentionally getting outside your comfort zone. And, I aside from teaching Krav Maga, I also am a fitness and wellness instructor. And, something I have people do is take cold showers, right? There are a lot of benefits there are a lot of physiological benefits to taking cold showers, but there are true benefits to just doing things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Aside from the physiological benefits, nobody wants to take a cold shower for the most part. Maybe crazy people like you.
No, I'm not so much for big showers. But okay. apart from that, throw anything at me.
Okay. Yeah. So having people do that, right? And then all of a sudden that comfort zone grows, right? We start out with a 20-second cold shower. Yeah. Oh, that was the worst thing in my life. And, 10 weeks into the program, they're doing a 5-minute cold shower and they're like, it's not, I don't love it, but it's fine.
Yeah. And it's all about, setting your mind to things, and I guess it's all to do with, preparing your mind for it and just being in the zone. Like, you're talking about cold showers. We go to this pool sometimes where they have like this cold plunge pool, right? Which is like super cold, depending what mood I'm in. Or like, if there's loads of people and they're like, oh my God, I can't do this, I just sort of walk in straight face, right? Stay in there. Yeah. But there are other days where I'm in a different sort of mood. I'm like, no, this is too cold. So it's all about your mindset as well, I would say, if you go to your craft class, just be ready to smash it and be ready to go for it. If you're already going like, oh, I don't want to do this, you're not going to feel great afterwards. Just, commit.
Yeah. It's okay to be nervous, but stick with your commitment. And that's a great tie into what you said about, okay, you're here, so give yourself 6 months to really to be here and decide if this is for you, because it takes time. But also, it's okay. Well, are you going to be a victim to your discomfort, or are you going to take control of your discomfort? Right? If it's your discomfort that's saying you don't want to be here, well then, okay, who's in charge?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, who do you want to be?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's everyone has that struggle in some way, shape, or form, right? We all have things that we don't want to do that we know would be productive if we did them, but we just don't want to do it. And that's either doing things or not doing things, right? I mean, you can say that about any diet people try to go on, or dietary lifestyle, right? It's easier. It should be easier to not eat something than to eat something, right? You don't put it in your mouth, but some people have to eat the thing that they know they shouldn't eat and then feel bad about it afterwards.
That's very true. Also, another thing I just thought of, because I just realized it myself. I'm a real fitness fanatic, right? I work out every day, and I try to work out every day. But if I miss a day, it can take me weeks to get back to it. It's crazy. But I had this thing where it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to do it an hour every day, and I'm going to do it like forever. And I set myself really sort of high goals that are unachievable or unrealistic, or just make everything else in my world apart. And I think people need to have less expectations of themselves. So set yourself a goal for whatever it is, whether it's for your next Krav Maga class, whether you think, it's your foot rotation you need to work on, or whatever it is, or whether it is in life. So now I'm like, isn't doing something every day enough of a goal? Does it have to be an hour?
Yeah.
Do I have to track all the calories? So I'm going through a lot of changes always, even though people are like, oh, you're so fit and you're this and that. It's always hard work. And I always change what I do based on my last experience. And I still haven't figured it out.
Right. Well, that's the thing, right? We should always be, evolving, right? And evolving can go in different directions. It mean going from an hour workout every day to a 30-minute workout every day. That might be the evolution.
Yeah, exactly. And in
But,
craft, I think a lot of it is also that women or new people, they just look at the others and they're like, oh, I will never be able to do that. They've got to remember that that person was you once. And that's the only way you're going to get there.
yeah, that is definitely how I felt going into Muay Thai, which was my kind of entry into martial arts as an adult. Going into taking my Muay Thai class and just, not so much looking at the people around me, immediately around me, who are kind of, newer, but looking at the people like over there, like kind of the Muay Thai clique and the people that were there 6 days a week and had been doing it for years, looking at them and going, oh man, I'll never do that. So why do this? Well, because I want to do that, even if I will never do that.
Yeah. Do you know, it's my dream to go to Thailand for like a Muay Thai, just like a week or 2 weeks, just do that every day. It just looks awesome. I'd love to
Just
learn
do it. Just do it. Just go. Just go, Laura. I haven't done it, but I know several people that have, and it doesn't seem like it's very complicated. You just, you find the club and you book it in, and you show up.
I'm sure there'll be lots of retreats you can just book to go on. Yeah.
Yeah. Before I really knew much about like international travel, the whole concept of going to Thailand to train in Muay Thai was extremely like unattainable to me in my head, because like, go all the way to Asia, to a country where I don't speak the language, and, take this course where they're kicking bamboo trees for 10 hours a day. Like I'm not doing that. Okay. That's not what it is. So yeah, it's actually quite doable. Do it.
Yeah. It's not so easy, when you run a club, then, it's me and my partner running it. We have no other instructors, and you've got to pick how many classes you cancel in a year, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely on my bucket list.
Okay. Well, that's a good one. You know what? Let me know when you're going. Maybe I'll join you, because I've never done it, and I feel like I'm too old for that, but I'll give it a try.
Yeah, you'd be fine.
Actually, one of the guys that I used to partner with regularly when I did Muay Thai, which was 10 or 15 years ago, 16, I don't know, a long time ago, like 2007 to 2010 or 11. He's actually been in Thailand the last 2 years. So he's out there just doing fights all the time.
Nice.
Yeah, he's not a super young guy. So I guess if he can go to Thailand for 2 years and, get in the ring and like really like go to town with people, I can do it for a week.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. I did go to Thailand once on holiday, and I did go to Lumpini Boxing Stadium and watch some Muay Thai fights. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I went to Bangkok a few years ago to see it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. It was amazing. I just love it. I love the country. I love the people. Just, I doubt that I'll get my British boyfriend to ever leave this country. But when my daughter's 18, I'll be like, here, you bags. I'm going to go and see the world now.
That's what it is. All right. You got 8 years to plan and save. That's awesome. Well, Laura, this has been a really nice chat, and you've taught me some new things, and you've kind of affirmed some of the things that I've already kind of seen or experienced as well. Hopefully, a lot of my listeners are female, so hopefully many of my female listeners that have not delved into the world of martial arts or self-defense are feeling a little bit of motivation to go in and at least take that first class. Take that class and just try it. Talk to the instructors, talk to the students that are there, and go and empower yourself.
I hope so. It's starting Krav Maga was the best decision I've ever made. Honestly, it's just changed my life completely. As hopefully that's sort of come across, because it's not just techniques and self-defense. Yeah. It's so much more.
Yep, it's so much more. Well, Laura, thank you so much. I really appreciate you connecting with me and being on the podcast here.
Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed the chat. It's really lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. If ever I make it over to, it doesn't sound like you're getting out of town, so I won't see you here, but if I make it to the UK, I'll hit you up and drop in for a class.
Definitely. You should. You'll love it.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.